Welcome, everyone. It is episode 12 of Constellation Research TV. As usual, we are here with the news and the updates. And as always, I am here with my partner in crime, my long-lost cousin, Holger Mueller.
Hey, Liz, good to see you. How are things?
You know what? Things are busy. I think it was my dad used to say, what was it, like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest? It kind of feels like that every day, Holger. I'm not going to lie. We're getting super busy, but it's all good.
Like, how many parallel conferences can you take in one day, right?
So my brain's about to explode, and they're all starting to sound alike yet be drastically different all at the same time, which is getting me a little worried for the world of technology. I can't hide that too much, but it's been interesting. I mean, we've kind of been on a wild ride here for like the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's just gonna get crazier because this week we got a whole lot of things happening. We got it's like data, customer service. I think there are about like 3 happen at the same time for me. You usually have about 4 happen at the same time, but
So the trick I found out to deal with it is like distinct audio sources, right? So put the audios in different areas. That works for my male, not very well multitasking enabled brain pretty much to follow multiple events. So we start with that. But what was the news of the week, right? Biggest event last week was Think. Hint.
Oh yeah, Think. Hey there, IBM. Yeah. Listen, hey, it's hard for a marketer. They like when you sell off all of you sell off the majority of your marketing tools. I'm like, wait, did Acoustic have an event? But no.
Yeah, no. So, but IBM Think was there, and it was the most efficient Think ever list. Normally it's a 3-4 day affair. It was all done in 6 hours. Unbelievable compression.
Stop it.
Yes, it was done in 6 hours.
Was it all done in 6 hours, or did you only view 6 hours?
6 or 7 hours, parallel sessions, and so on. No, really, but we had some follow up. Today was Ask Me Anything with Arvind Krishna, which was great. I mean, really interactive questions, so well done from that perspective. But the takeaway for me is we have to be still worried, but a little less worried about IBM. Because last year it was all about hybrid cloud. And yes, hybrid cloud is important, but it cannot pay the bills to keep all these IBMers who are at IBM right now. So it can't maintain the IBM as we know it. The good news is they came back with second and third leg, kind of like this IBM Think, talking more about AI, talking more about what is coming out of research, which is really exciting stuff, right? Like they had the first 2 nanometer processor being developed. They have some interesting things about how to run, of course, quantum, which is a very strong piece there. So there's some very interesting things in AI coming out of research. And IBM to monetize things out of research has always not been working. So if they can get done, because they file the most patents all the time, it's going to be a huge win, right? My joke is always, right, Oracle is based on an IBM patent, right? IBM filed the relational database patent, and we're not going to go there, it's not going to happen, and so on. And Oracle wouldn't be around if IBM could capitalize on patents, right?
Well, the funny thing is, for me, as a marketer, IBM used to be the big, Think used to be the big place where all like the big announcements were happening, like, Watson marketing. Remember those a couple years ago, where it's like Watson, and Watson's going to do everything for you. And
it was Watson's conference even at some point, and kind of Watson kind of went away, but now AI is coming back, hopefully in a better way. Yeah.
I think so, and that's great. But what was interesting is, while you guys were over at Think, I got the big update from Oracle on what's happening on the CX side of their business. And that's the sleeper hit that I don't think anyone is really keeping their eye on, but they should. A lot of the moves that Oracle CX is making is really intentional. It's around the customer. It's around the data. They're bringing in a lot of kind of bits and pieces that in a lot of different portfolios can feel really disconnected, like product information being accessible by your DAM and your digital asset manager, right? Bringing that all into one place so that anyone who is putting something together that touches the customer is actually bringing that from one repository. And they've got some really nice tools on the back end there that have kind of been in this quiet stealth mode. And I think people like to discount it because they talk a lot about Oracle's Project Redwood, right? Bringing that UI all together, bringing that new look and feel together. But I got to tell you, I think it's actually cleared a lot of trees, because you're starting to see a lot of things that would normally be developed in those kind of Oracle silos really start to come together under that CX portfolio. And it's actually really nice to see. So I'd say, I know for me, last week definitely made me, perk my ears up and want to, keep paying attention to what they're doing over there, because it's been interesting.
Yep. And then AWS had their second most event after AWS reInvent, right? Which every half a year, apart from reInvent early December, is AWS Summit North America. Full broad push on the usual things, no major announcements, more instance times, more improvement, things going GA, more of that custom silicon. Yeah, more, right? Nothing
More.
Perspective here. VMware has a new CEO, right? So
That's right.
Gelsinger jumped back to where he used to be, to Intel. They had to make a call, and the product guy won, Raghuram, who's been there since forever, basically, since the beginning of VMware, potentially. But I mean, as a former product guy, I always like product guy to win. Unfortunately, the loser is an old good friend, right? Sanjay Poon, who I know from the SAP days, who's looking for greener pasture, and I'm pretty sure you see Sanjay soon somewhere else. Who's done a phenomenal job also on the end user side, right? VMware managed to get the second leg apart from virtualization and renewing that, but they have end user management, running advices, and so on. So that's good to see. What else happened last week?
Well, gosh, for me, it was really just about hearing from some of the little folks, to be honest with you. I think a lot of these big conferences have been really taking up a lot of our time and a lot of the bandwidth, but it was nice kind of talking to organizations like, I had a great chat with the folks over at Cloudinary who were talking about digital asset management and taking that in a new way. And I think one of the big themes that we're starting to see, certainly in the world of the marketer, is how do we start bringing a new sense and a new life to this concept of content, right? Because I think we kind of, there's a lot of misnomers, right? Is content the asset? Is content everything that we put out there? So we're starting to see organizations like Adobe, like Oracle, yes, but also like the Cloudinaries out there, really trying to hone in on making sure that this idea of democratization, we've kind of talked and joked about that before, but it's that, do you actually have a place that everyone in service can get access to assets that they need to start making those customer relationships stronger? And the fact of the matter is that right now, no, it's not. It's kind of the land of email, or even worse, dare I say it, mass storage systems like a Dropbox or a Box. That's not a place to necessarily manage those assets. So we're starting to see a lot of good work not want to go to that graveyard. And we're starting to see a lot of systems that, powered by AI, are actually giving people some really nice capabilities to create things. So we're starting to see people talk about creators and citizen developers and citizen creators, and everyone's a citizen.
One of the things with the citizenship thing is really working is on the ServiceNow side, right? They prepared for the Now 21 conference happening this week, right? And when the shop floor, they went back to IT service management. I think that's great to see. Google did something interesting with their intelligent chat to be able to do things in public clouds from that perspective. And more importantly, Facebook has found a way for AI to forget stuff, right? Which is particularly interesting, especially for Facebook, right? So do you want to ever forget something? But they, in their intro to that, they're saying these neural networks are getting really, really big. So maybe all of a sudden, all the big guys are realizing there's a cost to store all that information and build all those networks. That's
absolutely. You bet.
This week at Google I/O. So for people who are not in the Apple, in the fruit ecosystem, it's going to be a very interesting week.
Well, we got a lot of stuff happening this week. I'm sure you're going to hear a lot about it in our next episode of Constellation TV, but we're going to go and shift to a little bit of a blast from the past. It's something that we all need a reminder of, and I think it's a great quirk that actually Ray Wong taped during CCE last year, but it's a conversation with Tiffany Bova, where she talks about growth as a mindset, not necessarily as a list of tools or a list of strategies. And so it's a great reminder, even though we're pushing through this pandemic, what do we need to be doing next to make sure that our entire organization can maintain that type of growth mindset? So
always great to listen to Tiffany. So always
awesome. Always awesome. We'll see you in a minute, Tolga.
See you.
All right, we're here live with Tiffany Bova, one of the Thinkers 50s. She's on the list. She's actually had an awesome best-selling book called Growth IQ. And more importantly, it's being translated all around the world. Tiffany, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ray.
Well, you know what? You've been going around the world talking about how to modernize growth strategies and do it at global scale. And you have a very interesting view. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I'm just going to boil it down to this. I believe growth is a thinking game, and you have to outthink your competition. And so, attending events like this is a great way to get and learn different perspectives, so you can kind of unlearn, relearn what you have to do going forward, how we not only respond to this pandemic, but come out of it on the other end stronger and better than we did going in.
What's interesting about your book is it's not about reinventing things. You're modernizing the thought process around growth. And I thought that was so important, because everyone tries to reinvent this, and it's really a lot of the rules haven't changed.
Absolutely. Well, I did my homework, right? I read sort of 75 of the best business books I think ever written. Some of which were written by people who you have at the event with you, whether it be Tom Peters or Whitney Johnson and others. And so I would say to you that I looked at those books and said, why should I reinvent the wheel? Like, let's just modernize using the things we have now, like social, mobile, cloud, big data, AI. All the things that we have at our disposal from a technology standpoint means we can't approach the things, and we don't need to approach the things, especially when it comes to growth, sales, marketing, customer service, as well as leadership and culture that we did previously. So I think it's a great time for us to say, look, just because we did it that way in the past doesn't mean we can't do it that way now, but can't we do it with a more modern twist, using technology to alleviate some of those painful things that humans have had to do for a really long time?
It's a great point, right? And everyone's looking for the secret to growth. They're looking for that magic bullet. Tell me that there is no magic bullet.
No, there isn't. There is not.
Darn.
I wish there was, right? We could all be rich and walk away. But at the end of the day, the one thing about growth is it's never one thing. It's really about three main topics. One is about the context of the market it is that you're competing in. Second is what growth paths you choose. And there's sort of 10 I highlight in the book, Growth IQ. And the third, which was really the aha moment for me, was the sequence in which you do things has a measured impact to the capabilities and your ability to succeed. And so if you take context, combination, and sequence, those three things are the foundation to the book. And that's why I said that growth was a thinking game. Because if you can outthink your competition, being smarter at timing, being smarter at the combination of things, because at the end of the day, you are your own brand, your own culture, your own people, your own products. Nobody else is like you. So why copy the competition?
That's a great point, right? And you did something very interesting along with the book. You actually started a podcast on Thursdays. So sorry, I took your line.
No, it's a great line, right? But it's called What's Next with Tiffany Bova. And it really began right before the book published. And I have these amazing conversations as I used to travel around the world in the green room with really smart people. And I selfishly felt like, how do I share these conversations? Because there's so many really good nuggets and I'm never going to remember it all. So I just would say to somebody, hey, do you mind if we continue this conversation on my podcast? And that's kind of how it was born. I reached out to my kind of network of people that I always go to when I have career deciding, decisions that I have to make. And they all said, I'm game, I'll be on it. And so it's been really fun. And I'll tell you, I've learned personally so much from my own podcast that sometimes I go back and re-listen when I want to learn about mental models or about dealing with disruption or personal disruption or delivering excellence from Tom Peters. There's just so many things. It's been such a joy to do.
It's amazing. There's so much out there to learn from everyone. Your book is being translated. Tell me where it's amazing. Like, you're showing me all the different covers. So where's it been translated to date?
Yeah. So we have 9 languages, which is just crazy. It's,
wow.
I feel like my book is getting to travel way more than me at the moment, right? But we've got Korean, we've got Simple Chinese, Mandarin, we've got Polish, Thai, Vietnamese, Spanish, Portuguese, obviously English, UK, also, which is the Queen's English. And then it's been also on Audible as well as Kindle. And I read my own book cover to cover. So I can say, check, I have actually done that word for word, all the way, start to finish.
That's amazing. Are you working on a new book? Is there anything else on the list that you're coming up with, or that's all top secret at the moment?
Oh, no, that's the big question. I don't know. I have, multiple ideas and people have said I really should follow up along the lines of some of the things I uncovered in the book. And so that's a possibility. Right now, I'm taking a break and enjoying how well my existing book is doing, but she just crossed 2 years. So it's time for me to start thinking about my second, if at all. We'll see.
Yeah, don't make that mistake I did. I waited forever to write the next one, so this is going to take a long time. But hey, we're here with Tiffany. We're going to see you at the Speaker's Corner. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Ray. Thanks for having me.
Hey everyone, it is Liz Miller and I'm here with an update on what is happening in the world of the Chief Marketing Officer for 2021. See, we went out and actually asked, and what we found out was, it shouldn't surprise anyone, growth is absolutely top of mind for today's CMO. In fact, when we asked what your big priority was going to be for the coming year, growth was the #1 answer. But if you look across all the top answers, you're going to see a real distinct theme.
In fact, you're going to see that marketers and CMOs specifically are not only just looking to grow those existing accounts and segments, they're really starting to rethink customer experience as a team sport, something that floods across the entire organization. This isn't something that's just owned by marketing anymore, but that also means it's that much more important for marketing to make sure that the messages being orchestrated across the entire organization fit to a strategy. That's why you're seeing the number 3 answer of CMOs really looking to deliver that customer intelligence and insight to really help mold and inform business strategies. CMOs are taking that role as the growth driver for the organization very seriously. And we're seeing this play out in a lot of the mandates that we're looking to accomplish this year. There's one little challenge. We're not necessarily looking to work with everybody. And if we're being honest here, finance and operations might be those 2 functions that we really need to start rethinking what those unlikely animal friendships are. You see, what's happening is CMOs, and only in fact less than 10%, are looking to align with finance and operations to come up with a single growth strategy for the organization. Why is something like that important? Well, we need to really start looking at where we're spending our dollars. What is that total strategy, and how is spend crossing all of the areas where customer engagement is actually touching every single function of an organization? The days of having multiple systems, multiple plans, multiple strategies, very quickly getting called to the table by both finance and operations. Marketing really needs to be part of this conversation. And what we're seeing smart CMOs do is take the reins of that to try to understand what the cost of engagement is. We're really good at understanding the selling costs, right? We can take what it costs for the event. We take how much it costs for that fancy dinner. We even take the amount of how much swag we had to buy. And we actually base that against what that final transaction used to be. And believe me, I know lots goes into the selling cost, but so does a lot go into the cost of engagement. We have to start calculating what that metric is, understanding what was the cost of all our systems? What's the storage? What's the cost of our people, our talent, our time? If we're letting the cost of the systems through which we're engaging run away from us, pretty soon we're going to hear that knock on a lot of our virtual doors from operations and from finance, just trying to figure out why we are spending so much we are spending on. The days of just spending to see, finding out what system might work, long gone. And that's becoming real clear when we started to ask marketers what they were actually looking to invest in this year by way of technology. What you're finding is the number 1 answer, well, CDP. We're looking for that customer data platform that's going to power all of our personalization. That's actually going to move us forward in how we engage with our customers. But you'll also notice analytics, CX, not that far behind, because we're looking for those tools that's going to actually quantify growth, understand where growth is coming from, that it's not just about an acquisition strategy anymore. It's about getting back to basics for marketing operations and understanding how resource management comes back into the picture. We're starting to see that we're not only looking at efficiency and effectiveness, we're trying to look past that view of marketing efficiency being, how did we allocate today? It's really about where we're getting those efficiencies and driving that number home. So we're starting to see our technology stack begin to expand beyond, say, the command and controls of how we automate and how we deliver on engagements. We're actually starting to look at, are we creating a revenue optimization model for how marketing is pushing that growth strategy forward? So there's a lot on the laundry list, but here's a sneak peek I'll give you into the full research. There was only one that came out on top. In fact, it came out on top by an overwhelming number. And the biggest hint, it wasn't a CDP. Marketers are looking to drive revenue. That is our definition of growth. And so those are the tools that we're looking to implement. What are some of the trends that are driving some of these purchasing decisions forward? Well, the biggest one is this reality that we got to engage everywhere and anywhere. And what this means is that data is coming in from anywhere. So when you start to see marketers look for analytics engines, the reason why is because we're starting to get a new sophistication on what analytics means for us. We're looking at almost a 3-tiered analytics layer of we're trying to find those business goals. And those business goals are going to be about opportunity, about growth, about expansion. It's long-term. This is about scale. Does scale have to go out? Does scale have to retract? But it's also about looking at those business KPIs that are informed by the business and are reported in the language of the entire business. And guess what? It's usually dollars and cents. We're also looking to establish our strategy goals. This is what marketing is looking to do for the business. This is where we're looking at the content, our decision velocity, our efficiencies. How effective is marketing in moving the business goals forward? So our strategy goals are actually being looked at in a separate layer. Now, these two layers are not to be confused by our tactical goals. This is where marketing is really comfortable living. This is a little bit like the rear view mirror. This is where those campaign metrics, the what did we spend on, what worked, what didn't work. This is the optimization, the allocation layer. This is where we're looking at optimizing in flight so that all of those strategy goals and all those business goals can be met. But this can't be confused with being the only analytics layers that CMOs need to look at. And this is really the year that we're going to start to see some of those tools and with a lot of the AI begin to appear where we start to see those tactical goals feeding the metrics into the strategy goals. It's also going to be the year that we might actually ditch the 4 Ps of marketing, right? You know what I mean? You know exactly what I mean by the 4 Ps, right? It's the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. And then we got sassy because we realized we lost a lot of those Ps. So then we added a couple like people and process and physical evidence. And whoever added physical evidence, I'm coming for you. But we started to add Ps because marketing realized a lot of the Ps that we had once told dear were really being influenced by other parts of the organization. And we couldn't say that we owned it anymore. There was no longer that North Star of the 4 Ps. So it's time for CMOs to actually start looking someplace else. And I like to call them the 3 Rs of the CMO and the 3 Rs of marketing. And these are the 3 things that as a marketing organization, this is really our mandate. It's about revenue, it's about relationships, and it's about reputation. These are the 3 key areas that we are laser focused on every day. It's about, yes, filling the funnel. It's about making sure those journeys are optimized so that our customer is able to find the journey they are defining and that we're just ready to help them. It's about those relationships and fostering those durable, profitable relationships that keep our organization running. And it's about our reputation. Everyone who gave up on their PR teams and everyone who gave up on earned media, go get them back. Because a lot of times this is where our reputation comes to light. It's through social, it's through PR, it's through word of mouth, it's through customer voice. Reputation is core to what we need to be managing to be successful in the next year. But if there's one thing that I hope every CMO remembers in 2021, it's this. A lion doesn't need to roar to prove she's a lion. We just are. The days of trying to prove how long we've had our job, how much longer we might have our job, all of those things that headhunters really want us to worry about, we're getting after it and we're getting it done. And that's where growth comes to life. So for more on these studies and more on these trends, we got 3. Check them out, ConstellationR.com. But until then, thanks so much for watching.
So Holger, top of mind for everyone right now, everyone's trying to get through now into like, okay, we got through the pandemic. We're now arguably post-pandemic, right? We're trying to get back into that recovery mode, but everyone's eyes are back on innovation, right? Everyone's eyes are back on that idea of, okay, we did those moments and bursts of transformation through the pandemic. How do we start to stretch that out and look at long-term change? But most importantly, how do we be the disruptors, right? And for us at Constellation, the way we capture that is really in our case studies. We are talking about who is that organization? What did they do? How did they actually change? What is that disruption? How did they reach that point of innovation? And you've been doing them for a really long time. So I'm kind of like interviewing you as the newbie, right? I've got one, under my belt. Tell me, top 3
the fascinating thing on case studies is that many analyst firms put vendors and the innovation through a large sifter, right? So to go on what we call jokingly the tragic quadrant, right? You need to have 25, usually 50 in a mature industry. So if you have 50 customers who have adopted your technology, you probably need 100, if not more, to have good ones because stuff happens, delays, nobody likes it, whatever. Real life happens to implementations of software. So you need probably 100. That takes 2-3 years to a large company. So it's no longer innovative. We don't want this. This is why we even do blind customer case studies, like saying a major bank in the Midwest. Yeah. So because sometimes customers are not ready to share what they've done. They're happy to talk about the technology. They're happy to talk about the vendor, but they don't want to say it's us, so they're direct competitors. And that's what's extremely powerful, because it's just one company. You talk to them independently, right? The vendor only selects them, but the complete editorial control is by the customer, by that executive who's done something for his company, transferring something, innovating something, transforming something. That's what's the interesting thing about this. They should have a strong, interesting ROI savings from that, because nobody does this for a living. It's not enough fun for doing this just doing it for a living, but not being paid for it, or not having ROI for your company. Everybody asks for that. Some things are necessities, but it's always interesting to see what did that specific piece of innovation, that piece of software, that piece of hardware, we do hardware as well, right? That piece of furniture, right? Some case study I love to do is about how office furniture change the future of work. Yeah, why not? Right? If anybody listens, happy to talk about how your chair is more ergonomic, how your standing desk is more ergonomic, how the flow design of a room is more ergonomic. These are all factors which help companies, which is close near to my heart, accelerate and move faster, right? This is what it's all about, right? You cannot stand still, you cannot go slower. And that's where case studies are interesting for our customers, the CXOs, to see how was technology, how was software used by another company successfully.
I also love getting to those moments where you get to hear where an innovator perhaps used that software in a way they didn't even expect or anticipate to use it. And that's actually where they saw the biggest leap and change, right?
Yeah.
I think that's also where it's about taking that software that, yes, everyone sees the architecture, everyone sees here are the list of features and benefits, but it's about when that rubber meets the road and someone's actually using it to change their business and their process and their outcomes. That's where you start to hear all of those kind of really interesting stories that also I've at least found through this process kind of speak to more about some of the cultural shifts and changes that can happen because these teams are coming together in a very different way. So it's kind of like the depth and the complexity of that you can't quite get if you're just mapping a chart, right? Even when we do our short lists, it's really hard to get to some of that, even when you hear some of the stories, because you're like, yeah, but did it really work the first time out? And maybe the second time out was the real winner, and it's because they got other pieces of the puzzle together. So listen, of the case studies that you've done recently, what's one that really stands out in your mind? Kind of what's one of your favorite ones?
Well, let's start with the top three, right? Because I looked at this like, what are the best ones? Right? That one is, what a case study makes good is when it's something tangible, relatable, right? When it's a brand that people know, they can identify all the situation you can identify with. I'm not calling you. It's not about that.
Were you calling me to find out what the answer was?
No. I was going to tell you, don't talk about case studies, but it's too late.
Well, you said scam likely, so who knows?
A really interesting case study at Lufthansa, the airline company, enabling a specific role job, that of the flight manager. That's the person who's responsible at large hubs to get the planes off, right? Their work was on a terminal, on a computer. They were in office, and sometimes they have to go and manage things where things are not working, right? Customers are complaining and so on. So they were basically seeing what the situation is and going to a gate. And as we know, airports are big, they're far away, right? So the situation literally was changing while they were walking there, possibly in the wrong direction. So simple solution, right? And it's nice from this case study because many vendors involved. Okay, they gave them shiny Apple devices. IBM was a system integrator, and building an application where on the fly you really can see what's happening with social sentiment, where people are more complaining, where it's more relevant, which gate to process faster. So really tangible transformation also for all of us who fly, right? You always know the situation, and then you see it from the other side, and how technology can really change the way how they do business. Instead of being office back and forward, check in the office what's the next thing is, like a relay, whatever, they're just walking the whole terminal, checking on their phones and seeing where they need it most. And the greatest thing is you can see the flight managers walking with the thing in the airports and talk to them and say, hey, I bought that case study. How do you like it? How is it working for you? That's even better, right? So, yeah.
What were some of the things that they ran up against in that? Because, there's always something, especially when they're working with a lot of different organizations, right? If you're working with an integrator, you're working with software, working with hardware, you're going to run into problems, right? But something like that really is, it feels like something that seems obvious and simple, right? Like, don't tether your flight folks to a desktop, right? They got to be mobile. They got to go where the planes are. They got to go where the customers.
So it's shocking that it wasn't done before, right? Because not that expensive. There's only
but it's crazy hard
devices needed, right? So, but yeah, it sometimes shows that the near and clear innovation can be directly reached. So number 2, ready? Yeah. Market Source wrote that out recently using UKG's workforce scheduling software. for their sales force, which is like a white label sales force. We talked about Target before, right? So at Target, if you have a technical problem, you talk to a market source employee who never sees the corner software for time and attendance. They build the whole custom application in the front end with multiple applications for employee communication. Rodeo was there for building the whole app, with a knowledge management piece in it, with a billing piece in it, with a travel piece in it. So one employee experience which just has time.
Awesome.
Ask me about the best one. The number one.
Best one.
Number one, also very relatable for us, right? Relatability, super interesting, is Twitter. Right, we all know Twitter, and we cannot imagine how they scale and how they make this work. Awesome Word notebook, right? Twitter is all written in Java. They got approached by Oracle, who in their R&D, I always like R&D, rewrote fundamentals of the Java compiler in what they call the Graal, Graal compiler project. So we're getting a little tacky goofy here. But here's the amazing thing, Liz. The same code runs 15 to 70% faster.
Dang, that's a lot.
Because normally, if you, as a developer, if you improved code and got 2-3% from a platform,
Right.
hallelujah, right? That's what you expect. No, teenage number of percentages means significant savings how much hardware you need to operate something, which we all can relate to when you hit tweet or the tweet button or upload that picture and so on. So super fascinating.
That's awesome.
From the
Okay,
change
so
of technology.
next up, Holger, I'm going to need you to do a case study on how Twitter gave me an edit button. It's just gonna have to happen. I need the damn edit button. So when you can figure out who's gonna enable that for Twitter, you're gonna write the case study on it, and I'm
not
gonna
a
read
problem
it.
of the underlying Java. It's more like, how long do you want that edit button? Can you edit anything, everything, and so on? So it's more like,
I just
how
want
do you
an edit
build
button.
it simply? It's a feature.
Okay, I didn't need
It's
a
a
tip
feature.
jar. I needed an edit button.
It's a
Well,
feature.
that's awesome, and I think it does a really good job in explaining why case studies are so important for all of us here at Constellation, but also why our clients really love consuming them, because our end user clients, that becomes almost like the innovation and transformation cheat sheets, the blueprint, so to speak, on how to get things done. So thanks for sharing that, and hey, listen, everyone, for tuning in. Episode number 12 in the books.
In the books.
But in the books and ready to roll. Listen, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in. That's it. You can follow us at ConstellationR.com and on Twitter, ConstellationR.
All right, Liz K. Miller and Holger M. U. Thanks for watching. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. Everyone's a citizen. Everyone's a citizen. Everyone's a citizen. Citizen developer, citizen analytics, citizen, like everyone's going to be a citizen of something. It's nighttime where you are, Holger. It's like we're doing a day and night episode.
Yeah, it's Miller and Müller, so it must be day and night, right? There must be some difference. I'm feeling kind of like odd being the left guy here, but it's okay. I can handle that. But that's okay.
We just switch it up. Okay.
We can switch it up. Wow! I'm in my comfortable spot now. I'm all relaxed. Okay, good.
He's an evil sorcerer.
Like this.
I know. Now we got to switch arm positions. Damn it, Elle.
Yeah, man. She did it. She did it to us. Hell, I love.
Hey, Ray, I've got a very important question. You said the grandparents are in town?
Oh, yeah, they're coming.